Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Extra Lap podcast. Today, we're lucky enough to have with us Michigan commit Marcus Reilly. Marcus, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Ethan. How about you?
I'm doing great, thank you. So, Marcus, you're committed to Michigan. What went into that decision?
Yeah, I think it was a number of factors. On my official visit, I really felt welcomed by all the guys on the team, and when they kind of brought me around campus and showed me around the area, I really fell in love with it almost immediately. I really loved Ann Arbor, the town, and then communicating with Coach Soley over the whole recruiting process was great. He has great experience as a runner himself. Being at the highest level in the sport, especially in my own event, the 1500, I think really made me drawn towards Michigan because I knew in college he'd be able to give me that expertise. And then I guess another aspect was that it's a great academic school. So, all the schools I was looking at were pretty good academically. And so I knew that Michigan would be able to help me pursue my goals both athletically and academically to help me get a really good degree so that I could be as successful as I could in the future for, my athletics and my academics.
Definitely. And Marcus, you have a lot of amazing events. And what is your goals going into this season with time-wise?
Yeah, so I think time wise I'd obviously like to improve upon all my PRs. So I think you know, over the 1500 I ran 345 last year, and so I think if I'm able to get close to sub 4 in the mile, and then I'm getting down below 345 in the 1500, that'd be great. I think last season I ran a PR in the 1500, but I think I didn't run as fast as I could have based off the training I was putting in that summer, and so I think hopefully this season the races really click together and I'm able to put in a really good performance over the 1500 and the mile. And then regarding the 800, I got really close to sub 150. So I think a healthy goal would be to go under 150. And I think if I don't do an indoor season, I'd definitely be able to get it by outdoors. So those are kind of the two main goals for the season.
Definitely. 150 seems to be just a huge landmark for any runner. And what do you think it would take just training wise, mentally, just everything? What would it take to go and break that 150 barrier?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to take a lot of hard training. I think putting in those speed endurance workouts is really important. I think last season I did really well over improving my strength for the mile, and so I think this season I'm going to try and get tap into more of the speed stuff. I naturally have pretty decent speed, but I still think you need to be able to run some pretty hard reps in 400s and like even 500-meter time trials and stuff like that. And so that's kind of things I've done in the past to help me run fast in the 800. So I think doing those kind of workouts will help me kind of improve upon that. And then mentally, I think the 800 is a really tough event because
Mhm.
at least in my experience, when the gun goes off, I'm full out sprinting. And so I think maybe for guys that are more coming up from the 400, it might not feel like a sprint, but for me, it feels like I'm sprinting the whole way. So I think just being able to realize that my strength will carry me through the 800, and even if I feel like I'm sprinting at the start, I still think I'm able to hold on until the end. So just that mentality going to the race to really get out hard and then make sure I can maintain that strength over the whole race is going to be important.
Definitely. And as a runner like yourself, who's predominantly an 800 miler, I saw that you ran 8:34 in the 3K. How is that just going into a 3K where you know the distance is going to be extended? You know it's going to more fall on your base. Is it just a training exercise or was it just to see what you could do?
Yeah, so I think going up in distance for me has really helped me over the 800 and the mile. Same kind of goes for cross country. I'm decent at cross country, but I definitely think there's a lot of other guys out there that beat me pretty easily this season, and props to them. They ran some great races. So I think both the 3Ks on the track and then cross country really helped me get some good strength for the mile and the 800 because even though the 800 is like a pretty fast event, you still need a good amount of strength and you need to be able to put some decent mileage in. And so, I think doing those events, especially before, usually I generally do them at the start of my season. I think it's good because, it's a 3K is roughly, 8-minute event. And so when you're going down to the 800 of the mile, it feels a lot shorter, but even though to me, it's harder, but I think, being able to go up in distance really helps me, focus on the strength building part of the 800 mile.
Definitely. And what would you suggest to someone who wants to go into mid distance but just wants to build their strength? How would you recommend someone gets the strength?
Yeah, so for me, a lot of things I've been doing is like a lot of threshold workouts, tempo stuff. So, in the past I've done a lot of like 2K reps, tempos like 5 mile tempos, stuff like that. Even like a lot of hill reps as well. I'd be doing anywhere from 200 to 400-meter hill reps, and sometimes they're pretty fast, but other times I'm doing like 20 by 400-meter hill reps or something like that. A lot of hill reps, and then so I think really a lot of like the stuff you typically see in cross country. I think even like doing that during the track season, I think has helped me a lot because I think my speed generally sticks with me throughout the year. And if I'm gonna in the middle of cross country season, I can still bang out some 26-second 200s. But I think if I don't do a lot of strength throughout the year, then I definitely feel like I lose it. So I think trying to maintain the strength throughout the year by doing tempos and threshold efforts, especially even during like the peak of the track season, I think it's important to be able to run fast in the mile, for the strength.
Definitely. And if I'm not wrong, you come from a family of runners, am I correct? How would you
Yeah.
say that's just shaped your running career thus far?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. Both my parents ran collegiately, so I think they kind of know the ins and outs of the sport, and my mom coaches now collegiately, so I think that having the expertise from them has really helped me because going into big races, they've been there before, so they know what to expect, and they're able to kind of set my expectations and make sure I'm not getting too antsy before a race, and kind of overhyping myself. So I think that's definitely helped, and then as well. In terms of just like opportunities they've provided me with has been great. They fly me across the country, they drive me across the country. So I think having them be really dedicated to seeing my success has been great, and I think I can't thank them enough for all they've done. And so they've also helped a lot with my college decision. They kind of know coaches a little bit, but they also know what I want in a program, and I think they've really guided me a lit. They let me really make the decision for myself, but I think at the same time they put a little bit of their insight into it, and I think it really helped me, make the final decision.
Mhm. Definitely. I mean, it must be really just good to have a family of runners who have experienced everything. When you're at your high and when you're at your low, they're just there for you, which seems to be really, really helpful. Is there any moment when you were at a lower level where they just were there to comfort you, or was it just a
Yeah,
positive experience? Definitely.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've had my fair share of bad workouts and bad races, and so they're always there for me. And I think having that support has been great. Especially for the lows. I think it's important to have people around you as well as the highs. I like to share the good moments with them as well.
Definitely. And you said earlier, you were talking about workouts. Was there just one workout in particular heading towards a big race that you did that you just said, I'm really fit right now and I'm ready to go? And what did that
Yeah.
workout consist of? And do you remember the splits particularly?
Yeah, so kind of a staple workout I would do before like a 1500 or a mile is it's 800, 600, 400, 200. So it's a pretty short workout, but I think last year I can't remember before what race, if it was before New Balance Nationals or after before my 345 1500, but I did it with 4 to 5 minutes recovery, and the 800 I think was 155, and
Mhm.
then I went 125, 55, and then 26. So that was like a really big indicator for me, and I knew I was in great shape, and so I think I was going into that 1500. So then I ran 345, which I was pretty happy with it because it was a PR, but I definitely think based off that workout, I could have maybe hit a little bit lower than that. But
Mhm.
I think that was a pretty good indicator of the shape I was in, and that's usually a staple workout I would do before a big 1500 race.
Definitely. I mean, workouts, it's everyone, a lot of people have such good workouts, and it's all about putting it together on the track, right? And even if you race a great race like yourself where you run 345, it's always just a question of what if I went faster? But how would you say you appreciate that moment of running 345, even if you thought you could have gone faster?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was really happy because I think I ran 406 at New Balance Nationals, and I was like, oh, I think I can run faster than that. So then 345 was really like, yeah, that's a little bit better. I'm pretty happy with that. And so I think in the immediate aftermath, I was like puking on the ground and stuff. But I think, about an hour or two later, I was like, yeah, I'm pretty happy with the performance. And I think I can come away with the performance and be like, yeah, I really put it out there. I put a good effort in and, I got a PR, so I can't really complain about that.
Definitely. And you're more of a like mile 800 guy. So when you go into a mile, how would you say your 800 ability just affects it or affects the finish of it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty confident, in a tactical race on my kicking ability. So I think, yeah, I mean, going into a mile, I think especially into this upcoming season, I'm confident that the races I'm in, I'm going to be able to close at the finish. I think especially at national level events when you're like a sophomore and a junior, there's not a lot of expectations on you to win. You're still kind of growing into the sport, and usually the seniors are the ones that are kind of dominating the front end. So I think going into this season, I'm pretty confident that I'm going to try and win as many races as I can. Especially at the national level, and I think my kicking ability will really help me for that.
Definitely. Did you have any expectations going into the last New Balance Nationals, or was it just go out there and give it your all?
Yeah, so the mile last outdoor season, I was in good shape, and so I was definitely kind of looking for the win. I know Devin Kipiego was in it. He's a great runner, and there's a few other guys, Daniel Simmons, and some other really good milers. So I knew it was going to be a pretty competitive race, and so the plan going into that was to what I usually do is to really be in the top 25% of the field, towards the front, so that I can feel out the race, make sure I'm in a good spot when they try to pull away. And so that worked out pretty well. I think we were through the 400 a little bit slow, and so then the pacer kind of went a little faster that second 400, and I made sure I stay composed. And so when other guys were kind of dying, I made sure I was still in it, and so I got third, and I think I got out dipped on the line by like 0.01 seconds or something. So it was a little bit annoying, but I think I ran a good tactical race. And I think going into this season I only hope to improve upon that.
Definitely. And I think I'm going to know the answer to this next question, but if you were to do a sport outside of running, what would it be?
Oh, that's yeah. So I guess either the two options for me would probably be soccer or basketball.
Mhm,
So I played soccer for since I was like 5 years old up
mhm,
to probably about like 12 or 13.
mhm,
And then I played basketball from when I was like 8 or 9 to also like 13 years old.
mhm,
So I would maybe say basketball. Like if I was like 6'3" or 6'4", I
mhm,
think I'd be pretty good at basketball. So I think once I stopped growing, I was like, yeah, it's gonna be tough to be good at basketball, but I really enjoyed playing basketball. I
mhm.
played on an AAU team and for my town and stuff, so it was really fun to do that. And I think, if I could play another sport, it'd probably be basketball. Yeah.
Definitely. I was walking in my macroeconomics class and a kid, this is the morning that I posted the questions to ask you, and a kid walked up to me and said, "Hey, you're having Marcus Reilly on?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and he said, "He's from Northbridge, right?" And apparently you dropped 40 on him in travel or something, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh my gosh, that's crazy." So I guess that's a big what if story. What if Marcus really pursued basketball? Who knows?
Yeah,
Um,
that's funny actually.
so as I just said, we went out for questions and we received a good amount. And one of the questions was, oh my gosh, I just went by them. Who's this one? I don't really know what they're going for, but who's the most famous person in your contacts?
Oh, let's see. I'm trying to think. It's a good question. I wouldn't say I have that many famous people. Actually, someone I do, you may or may not know him, but he's a family friend. His name's Steve Jones. So he was a marathoner from Wales. He was actually the former world record holder in the marathon. He ran like 2:08 back in the 80s.
Mhm.
So he's a family friend of ours. So I have him in my contacts, but he's kind of the person that first came to my mind when I thought of that question. Yeah.
Definitely. And this one I thought was a really interesting question, actually. It is, how did you handle being so good at such a young age and the fear of peaking, hitting a peak?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question, and I think there's definitely been kind of people throughout the years that, peak pretty early. And so, especially for my parents, they made sure I wasn't doing too much mileage early on. Like, I think up until, I was doing like in middle school when I was running really fast, over the mile and stuff, I was running like 20 miles a week. I wasn't doing anything crazy at all.
Mhm.
And so I knew that, for training, the potential was there, and I would always be able to do more running. My parents kind of held me back from doing too much early on, and also mentally, I think being able to go out on a run and have fun, I think is important. The day you start to kind of dread what you're doing, I think it's going to be tough. But so far I've really enjoyed running, and I just like going out on runs, doing workouts, especially. And then the racing. The racing is like the best part for me. I love racing and competing against other people. So I think having that healthy mindset has really helped me, long term, and hopefully going into the future.
Definitely. And you've been a runner for so long. How would you suggest to someone just to like enjoy the experience for so long, like yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the little things, finding the joy out of it is really important, especially sometimes like the easy runs are the hardest, almost when you're doing like 7 or 8 miles, and it's like nothing really like fun about it. But I think just making sure you're getting out there and looking at nature, or even doing something that is just really enjoyable for yourself, I think is important. And it's there's obviously going to be days where you don't want to go for a run, that happens to me too. But I think just making sure you're sticking to a routine, putting in the mileage, and the strength work and all that kind of stuff afterwards, is important for the long term. Yeah.
Definitely. And what's your average week of training look like?
Yeah. So generally I'll just give like a track season example. So, anywhere from like 50 to 45 to 50 miles a week. So I would say, most easy runs I'd probably be doing 2 to 3 workouts. The easy runs are generally like 7 miles. And then sometimes I have a long run. I don't have a long run every week, but if I do have a long run, I'm usually like maxing out a 10-mile long run.
Mhm.
And then, the track workouts could be like, if I'm doing 2 track workouts, it might be 2 track workouts, or if I'm doing 3 workouts, it could be like, 2 track workouts and like a tempo type of workout. So the track workouts could be any type of thing, like the ladders I was talking about, 8, 6, 4, 2, or even like some K repeats. So
Mhm.
kind of stuff like that. And then if I'm really getting into like the peak of the season, I might do like 4x400 at 800 pace, with
Mhm.
like full recovery. So the typical mid distance workouts you think of, and then the tempo workout would be 2Ks or tempo, like I was saying earlier. So yeah, that's kind of like a typical week.
Definitely. And you had the great opportunity to run for Team USA. And what was it
Mhm.
like suiting up for Team USA?
Oh yeah, it was a great experience, and I think being able to put on the kit and represent my country was something great. And I also think it gave me some more motivation. Being able to be around top level athletes, in Puerto Rico, and meeting people from other countries really, opened my eyes, and I'm like, yeah, I want to keep doing this. I want to be able to run at the senior level and represent my country. So I think it was a little teaser for what I want in the future, hopefully world champs or even the Olympics. So I think being able to represent my country and, run against people from other countries was great, and it only motivated me to keep doing the sport.
Definitely. And how hard was it to go through all those rounds in the U20s?
hmm Yeah, so I mean, it was definitely tough. I think the tough thing about that was like, I had a really long season, so I think having a race in August was like, I wasn't used to it, and so I finished fifth at under 20s, and I think a podium would have been ideal, but I think, the long season I had, and it was really towards like the end of the season when I should be getting ready for cross country. I think, maybe was a little bit off in my performance, but I think. I was really there to just be able to experience it, and also, race hard, of course, but to really experience my first time representing Team USA.
Definitely. And when you extend the season that long, like you did, how is it working with just peaking at the right time? Do you have to peak and then just rebuild to peak again, or is it just
Yeah.
maintenance?
Yeah. So, I think that definitely like, I would peak probably, I would say after New Balance Nationals, like when I ran that 345, and then, at USA under 20s. So I think that was like a little bit of a peak there. So then I I leveled off a little bit. I continued to do some strength training, and I didn't really do too many track workouts like directly after USA under 20s, but then once Pan Ams came up, I started to do a little bit more track workouts and made sure I sharpened myself a little bit for the season. So, I still think I was probably not, at my peak, but I think I did a good job of, making sure I could, take the season out that long and, make sure I wasn't getting like hurt or anything going
Mhm.
into that.
Definitely. And do you compare yourself, sorry, do you think of yourself as more of a miler or an 800-meter runner?
Yeah, so I think I would say probably at this point a miler. Before I used to think of myself as an 800 because I always kind of had more speed than strength, but this past season I really made sure to work on my strength, and I think it was able to show in the mile and the 1500. So I think at this point I would say a 1500 miler. So we'll see how it goes next season if I switch that again, but that's probably what it is at the moment.
Definitely. And you've been around for so long in the high school running community, and you made an impact even at the national level. If I'm not wrong, don't you have the sophomore mile record?
I think the sophomore 1500
Oh,
national record.
yeah.
Yeah.
But how is it just even as a freshman or sophomore, you're towing the line against just great runners? I mean, I remember got to see you freshman year and you towed the line against Darius Kipiego. And just knowing that these people are so accomplished and obviously you want to get to their level, but what is it just like looking to your left and right and seeing people like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely been great, being around people. I think, naturally being around good runners has helped me improve upon myself. And so it's definitely it can be intimidating at first, and it was for me, when I was first racing against guys like Darius and, a few other guys. But, I think at this point, I think the most important thing for me is making sure that I realize that I'm supposed to be there. I know that, there's some really great runners that I've raced against, but making sure that the self-talk to myself to tell, to make sure that I'm supposed to be there and that I can compete against these guys has been important for me. And I think, going into the future, just making sure that I'm confident in my own abilities and but also, respecting my competitors is important. So I think, all that kind of combined and just has really helped me improve upon myself as a runner and especially racing against these guys. I think it can be easy to get really intimidated and not race well, but
Mhm.
make really kind of focusing on myself and making sure I have a good race for myself while also, competing against great guys has helped me run some fast times against, some top competitors.
Definitely. Well, Marcus, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was a pleasure to have you, and thank you everyone for listening. Till our next lap, thank you.